as a Muslim, but brother, look, we can snigger and laugh and pretend that, you know, it's somehow intrinsic within one community. Quite frankly, it's absurd to think like that. We have to be reasonable. We have to be sensible. Look, in the last 200 years, secular wars based upon materialism and greed and occupying land has cost the lives of hundreds of millions of people around the world. Hundreds of millions. All of the religions got to get together. They don't even come close.
Yes, they do.
They don't come close.
It's a lie.
It's nonsense.
It's a lie.
It's a nonsense.
It's a lie.
What are the figures?
Well, listen. If you add together all of the abominable and treacherous crimes of Christianity alone.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not even going to get into the.
Yes.
Well, maybe we'll get into the sort.
Well, add them all together. I'll be charitable.
Well,
add Islam, Judaism, Christianity, everything. Go on.
Far outweigh all the secular wars that have been fought in humanity.
Okay.
Christianity alone.
Okay.
Right, is the biggest criminal.
How many millions were killed?
Hundreds and hundreds of millions.
How many?
Well,
it's important, isn't it?
I'm saying, well, okay, let's take the African slave trade.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Conservatively,
yes,
right. Anthropologists say the figures around, and this is conservatively. I mean, they work out on.
Excuse me, brother. Is Christianity to be blamed for slavery?
Let him finish. Let him finish.
Is Christianity to be blamed for slavery?
Give him a chance. Well, some of them did defend it with you.
No, you are wrong.
Some of them did defend it. Yes.
I'll have to educate you about your religion.
No, you're wrong.
I'll have to educate you about your religion.
Let's not argue. Let him finish. Let him finish. Let's not argue. We don't have to argue.
On European.
By the way, we haven't said hello today.
How are you doing?
You all right?
Yes.
Now we can start. How you doing?
I see you're still.
I've got no chocolates with me today.
You're still chained in.
Just water.
You haven't let go yet.
No.
You haven't let go.
Christianity.
One day,
inshallah, the string of Allah. Hopefully, the rope of Allah is strong. Inshallah.
Hopefully,
with His mercy,
you're going to come to your senses and let it go.
Maybe you might.
Well,
anyway, finish your point.
Just on Christianity alone, the estimated, and this is the transatlantic, is around 60 million.
60 million. I've heard that figure. 60 I've heard up to 100 million.
Yeah. I mean, it varies depending on what scholars.
Yes. Red Indians, Aborigines.
No. I'm talking about the African.
Just the African slave. Okay.
You know, when you come to the North American continent.
Yes.
Right. I'm not talking on South America.
Yes.
The Christian, the Christian atrocities.
Yes.
In North America, there was approximately around 100 million American natives.
There's lots of figures that are very high figures.
No, but there's about 100 million.
100 seems a bit high, but
no.
Could be.
There was 100 million just in North America. There's barely 5 million left. After the Christian crusaders, mainly English and French, butcherers, invaders and interlopers, they didn't just enslave the Africans and transport them and build their wealth on the backs of that industry. They systematically butchered the best part of 95% of North American indigenous natives. South America, we're talking around, the figures were around sort of 50-60 million. They butchered around 90%, the Spanish and the Portuguese, Christian nations, butchered around 90% of the indigenous peoples in those countries. There's barely, again, 5-10 million left of those countries. Those are just the Americans.
Yes.
Now, when we go to Australia, they used to hunt Aborigines.
Up to the 50s. Abo hunts.
Aborigines for fun, as though they were hunting game,
wild game.
You know, and virtually wiped out. I mean, there's a few sort of tens of thousands here and there in camps, right? In New Zealand,
Christian has run off.
In New Zealand, I know. I'm going to catch up with him. I'll catch up with him in a minute.
You've upset him, haven't you?
No, I'm going to catch up with him in a minute because he needs to be ripped. He needs to be ready.
Reprimanded.
He needs to face his book.
Okay.
The book sanctions what goes on.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you an honest question. And let's be really open and honest about this. No. Let's be honest. Brother, one second. Let me ask you a very honest question, right? Do you believe if they didn't have the Bible under their left arm and the sword in their right arm, or vice versa, or whatever, that those atrocities would not have happened? Be honest.
Well, Maybe not. But
No.
So, I'm sorry.
Come on, let's be honest about that.
Hold on. We're dealing with ultimately. It doesn't matter, you know, what sort of religion you subscribe to. We're human beings, right? But a particular type of human being was born and emerged from Europe.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They're kind of a sort of pathological
supremacist, basically.
Sort of, you know, supremacist.
I understand that. But look, but my question was this. Look, my question was this, and I would answer it in this way. I would suggest.
I haven't even got onto Islam yet.
Anyway,
I haven't got onto Islam and the Arabs yet, and what they did to the
That's
Africans.
fine. We can do that. We can do that, but it will still be pertaining to the same answer that I would give you now, which is that mankind has looked for excuses to rape, to pillage, to murder, to steal, to subdue, to be fascist, to be racist. They've done that.
Not all of
now, hold on.
I'm sorry. No.
Even our early scientists of the 18th century, early 19th century, they believed the black man to be inferior. Yes. They believed that it was some subhuman almost.
Right.
And even scientific arguments were made that somehow these people could be herded and they could be used and utilized. Now that was not down to. Now what the religious folk did is that obviously to now have those type of ideas fitting into their religious doctrine to allow them to go and kill and to pillage and to do all of those things, they have to force the square peg into the round hole.
No.
So you either, so hold on a second, you do that in two ways. You either change the scriptures, which is what happened a lot of the times, or you interpret them in such a loose way that now everything becomes fair game. But I would suggest that this is an inherent corruption within humanity, of arrogance, of me feeling superior than you or to you, and that to some extent is what we even see today. Like for example in Rwanda, listen, let me just finish, just a minute. In Rwanda, 1 million Tutsi and Hutu, 1 million people were hacked to death. The whole of the world stood by and they allowed it to happen. Why? Because they're black, they're African, there's no oil. There's no oil. No, but listen, we have.
It's got nothing to do with it.
If I'm being killed on the street, and you're a strong man, and you can stop the other man from killing me, would you not stop him? Would you not stop him?
Why would Americans?
You're not very kind, are you? You'd let me die. That's horrible. My wife would not be happy with you.
I'm afraid, you are a convincing orator.
Thank you very much. I haven't managed to convince you though, have I?
No, Abbas, unfortunately,
yes,
you are hemmed in, you're chained, and you're locked in by your Quran. I'm sorry, that's the religion that you've chosen.
Alhamdulillah.
That's the religion that you've chosen.
And I say Alhamdulillah to that.
You are.
Praise be to Allah.
What does that mean?
Sorry, excuse me.
He doesn't know what you're saying. Explain to you what you mean.
He meant you are.
Alhamdulillah means praise be to God.
Hold on. I'm sorry, you are trapped within the four corners of that text. And the text speaks for itself. The text is a collection, it's a menu, it's a litany of threats, torment, and torture. Especially for the non-believer, who are deemed to be the worst of the worst. Your God systematically, overtly, and criminally, immorally sanctions torture, threats, and humiliation. Sanctions torture, threats, and humiliation.
Where does it do that? Sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for you to do that.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to. Yes. Now we'll go to where we need to go.
We'll go to Mufti Isa to translate what the Quran means and then interpret what the Quran means.
But first of all, Abbas, we need to clarify what your qualifications are, because you have a kind of tendency to know the mind of God, don't you?
No,
Abbas. Yeah,
not really.
You do.
How do I do that?
Well, because you make sweeping assumptions.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you say that God doesn't do this. He doesn't mean this. He doesn't, because I've consulted with this.
No.
With this.
But look, the sensible thing to do.
Hold on.
Let me answer that.
In a minute. Hold on. we need to know whether God talks to you directly, not whether you talk to God, whether God talks to you directly.
No,
whether
we
you
don't
have
believe
a personal,
that. We don't believe that.
A personal two-way conversation relationship with this God of
In
yours.
Islam, we don't believe that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Whether you have a personal communication with Muhammad, we need to know that.
No, we don't believe that.
No,
either.
well, no. I'm just talking about you.
Okay.
I'm talking about you, Abbas.
Well, general consensus within Islam would agree with me on that.
Okay. So you don't have direct communication with this God. He doesn't talk to you directly.
No.
Okay, good.
We don't hear voices in our head.
We'll come to that, Abbas.
If we do, we need to go to a mental asylum. We need to go into an asylum.
No. We'll come to that because that is the fundamental foundation on which your prophet gets his information.
No.
But
no, it's not.
But we'll come to that. We'll come to that.
But you're making many assertions here, which are, straw man arguments, really, aren't
okay,
they?
then you're going to explain to us how Muhammad got his messages, okay?
Well, I've explained that to you about five times
no,
before.
No, you haven't.
I have.
I'd like to hear.
Listen.
I've told him about maybe 10 times before.
Listen.
You either have a very short memory,
We've got.
or you're just not hearing what I say.
You don't. God doesn't talk to you directly.
No, I've said that 5 times now.
Okay.
No.
Neither does Muhammad.
No.
Okay. Are you in direct contact with the original scribes of the Quran?
No.
Good. So, are you in direct all of the factions and all of the different sections of Islam?
No.
Good. Have you been elected? Right.
That's like a survey.
No.
Questionnaire.
Hold on.
Do I win a prize at the end?
Hold on.
I hope I'm going to win a car.
No,
because this is getting quite grueling. It's at least worth a Prius.
Abbas, we need to define your position and by what authority you make your assertions. Right? So you haven't been elected as the main interpreter for all the sects of Islam.
I hope not.
And you are not the main translator.
No, absolutely
of
not.
all the sects of Islam.
No.
Good.
No.
Now, so what you're going to deliver to us, in actual fact, is your own cherry-picking, buffet selecting, make it up as you go along interpretations of what you feel the Quran says.
No.
Yes.
You asked me a question, I'm saying no.
Okay. So,
now ask me why no.
Okay.
Now ask me why no.
We need to know on what basis.
What are we doing here?
No. We
Wait, then ask me why you say no.
We need to know, since you've admitted that God doesn't talk to you directly, Muhammad doesn't talk to you directly. None of the original scribes of the Quran communicate with you directly.
Yes.
You are not, and haven't been selected as an international translator or interpreter of all the different Islamic sects and interpretations of Islam around the world. No. So all we have left is your own subjectified, cherry-picking, buffet selecting. Yes.
Now ask me why no.
Okay. On what basis do you make your interpretation?
Thank you very much for asking me that. Now, the first way is, in order to find out what it is that the Quran says, is to of course read it yourself. Number one.
Yes.
However, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made it quite clear that in the Quran there are verses that are very clear.
To who?
So, for example,
to who? Who did he make it clear to? Well,
to the people.
Which people?
The people at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which is called the Hadith.
Well, listen.
Compilation.
We've just established.
Can I just finish? I gave you about 10 minutes. I gave you about 10 minutes.
Hold on.
So I gave you 10 minutes.
I hope you didn't. I hope you did not join those people.
I gave you 10 minutes of talk, right? You have to give me at least 2.
Oh, go on.
Right.
No, you didn't.
Well, maybe at least 5 or 6, right? We consult a scholarly opinion about many verses of the Quran, and generally a better way to do it is to deal with consensus. So when there is a consensus feeling internationally often that these things are as they are meant to be in that way, we accept them. Because there are certain references, many references in the Quran that are made, that by reading them you wouldn't know what it's actually referring to. But it takes an inherent knowledge of the Quran, just as a very eloquent, very detailed book of some, of a high standard. You may have to consult the author. You may have to consult literally people who are experts within literature to find out what does this term mean when it's referred to in this way. Because, for example, in Arabic, some words could have 30 different meanings. So, for example, the word kufr, the word kafir, disbeliever, it also means to cover up. It also means to conceal. It also means to hide the truth. It also means so many different things. Now, how it appears, when it appears, within what context it appears, the interpretation by the scholarly opinion may be different. So as a layman, me, picks up the Quran, or Brother Isa here picks it up, reads a verse, and then a dodgy website says, look, it talks about killing. It talks about killing everybody.
No.
That's awful.
No. So,
and then you think, oh my God, that's what it's talking.
I'm sorry.
We have to be a little bit more intelligent.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I read the Quran, as I say, I read it back to front a few times, and it speaks for itself. The book is a menu of torture.
And yet
the book is a menu.
Yes.
It's a litany of torture.
You know what the Quran
torment,
says? You know what the Quran says?
And travesty.
You know what the Quran says? The Quran
I know
says
exactly what the Quran
says.
Right.
Whatever intention, hold on, let me finish. Whatever intention you have when you read it, that is what you will take from it.
Listen, the book.
So if your intention is that this is corrupt, this is murderous, this is about killing, about mayhem, about all, that's what you'll find.
Well, listen.
If your intention is because Allah says in the Quran that when you deal with the Quran, you must deal with it with an open heart and an open mind. When you come with a predisposition where you want to prove something to be
you're
murderous,
early Muslims and your caliphs.
No. What I'm saying to you is this. What I'm saying,
Abbas.
because look, the Quran. Let me just answer that. Look, the Quran says
you're
a very beautiful verse, and Harvard Law School have put that verse up on the wall, the Faculty of Law, and they've said it's one of the most profound legal statements in history. Well, that's what they've said. You might laugh about it, but that's what they've said. And what do they say? What does the verse say? O ye who believe, stand up as witnesses for God, even against yourselves, against your parents, against your kin, your family, whether one is rich or poor. In other words, even if I do something that's wrong, I have to condemn it because it's wrong. If my father does it, I have to condemn him and say, Father, that's a grave error you have made there. You should not have done this. If my mother does it, if my family does it, if Isa does it, I have to condemn it.
Your book.
So that's the reality.
Your book is immoral. It's unethical. It's misogynistic. It's sadistic. It's pathological.
According to you, that's your subjective view, right?
No, it's not.
Of course it is.
We're going to read some verses.
Is your view absolute?
We're going to read some verses.
Is your view absolute?
About the Quran? Absolutely.
And is your interpretation perfect?
Well, listen, I've only...
Is your interpretation perfect?
I've read it as it is.
Okay.
I've read it as it is.
Is your interpretation of those verses
I've read it as
perfect?
it is.
Answer the question.
No, hold on.
Answer my question.
Considering I got my information from Muslim Arabic sources.
Yes.
They didn't come from atheists.
Yes.
They didn't come from Hindus.
Yes.
They didn't come from Mormons.
Yes.
They didn't come from I don't know.
Are all Muslims correct in their interpretation of the Quran?
They did. Muslims can make it up as they go along.
Right, so you could believe that as well, couldn't you?
No. I read the book as it is.
So you might have believed that.
No.
Right?
I read the book as it is. I go to websites that.
Websites.
No. Hold on. No.
Now I understand.
No.
Where are you coming from?
I've got a copy of the Quran, and I've read it thoroughly. I also read, and I go to websites that are purely Muslim Arabic.
Let me ask you a question.
Right? Hold on.
Let me ask you a question. You know what you saw in the Quran? No, let me very quickly. You know what you saw in the Quran to be all those things.
Yes.
And yet there are many, including very educated people, postgraduate, graduate, PhD, whatever, who read the Quran. Hold on a second. And find it so beautiful and its teaching so beautiful that they accept Islam. So why does that happen?
Because they haven't managed to get beyond their childhood brainwashing.
So you're more intelligent than them, basically.
They haven't managed to get
You're
beyond,
more intelligent than them.
Then they haven't managed to get beyond their childhood indoctrination, brainwashing, and conditioning.
That's a bit judgmental, isn't it?
Well, that is the consequence.
That's Isa is right. Now you're saying Isa is right.
That is the
everybody else is wrong.
That is the
That's a bit arrogant, Isa, really.
That is the consequence of being brought up in a world where at least 90% of the world's population subscribe to some invisible, imaginary.
But they might be atheists.
Entity.
They might be atheists.
Right?
These people, they read the Quran, and for some of them, it convinces them they accept Islam.
I'm sorry, I've never come across an atheist that states that the Quran has any credibility.
So you're basically saying everyone or an agnostic then, or an agnostic.
Agnostics, you might have a bit more luck. Not an atheist.
Or people who've can you be an atheist? Can you be an atheist?
What do you mean?
Is it something that's a viable possibility?
Absolutely.
Is that scientific to have that stance?
No, hold on.
Are you an atheist?
Hold on.
Are you an atheist?
Absolutely. Especially in terms of the three Abrahamic cults.
Yes.
Judaism.
In God. I'm talking about God.
The three Abrahamic cults.
Don't change the question.
No.
As far as God is concerned, are you an atheist?
No. Listen. That won't help you.
You're not going to answer the question, are you?
We know who your God is.
You're not going to answer the question.
No, I will.
Are you an atheist? Yes or no?
No. Absolutely.
You are.
In actual fact, I'm an anti-theist.
Have you seen all of the evidence?
I'm an anti-theist.
Have you seen all of the evidence?
I haven't seen any of it.
Listen.
Have you seen all of the evidence?
Yes, and it's terrible.
Everything.
Terrible.
So basically,
your evidence is terrible.
So basically, Isa,
your evidence is terrible.
Isa has made an unscientific conclusion.
Listen.
Because even a scientist would have to say, at best, he doesn't know, right?
Abbas.
He can't say that for definite, for certain, there is no God. But Isa is now cleverer than all scientists in the world.
Unfortunately,
because he's come to a
that
conclusion.
won't help you. Because we know who your God is. Your God is one of the triune Abrahamic gods from the Middle East, concocted by
God is not from the Middle East.
Donkey riding, goat shepherding, camel herders, right?
They had very beautiful Arab stallions as well.
The Iron Age.
Most of the race horses in Europe are Arab. You know that?
So like every other,
it wasn't just donkey.
Just like every other cult and religion that was manifested in primitive cultures all around the world, we can dismiss those gods because they're preposterous.
We? Who's we?
Rational.
You mean you?
Rational.
Well, you, not we.
Rational, critical, objective, scientific thinking people can dismiss those gods because they're preposterous.
Why?
Because they claim to do things that are completely in contradiction to science. Yes. They're unethical.
How are they immoral?
Okay.
Let's talk about Islam now.
Okay, no. Let's talk about... No.
I'm not defending Judaism or Christianity.
Okay.
I'm a Muslim.
Okay, well...
Talk to me what is unethical about Islam.
You can take your pick. They all do the same thing. The Abrahamic gods...
Islam.
All condone slavery.
No, they don't. There's a debate between you and Shabir, who was it? Adnan Rashid. Okay. And he conclusively showed you that the word
I exposed him.
That the word slave does not even exist in the Quran in the Arabic.
I exposed him. Right? I exposed him thoroughly.
It's abd.
I exposed him thoroughly.
Abd doesn't exist in the Quran.
It condones slavery.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
It condones the subjugation and misogyny of women.
That's rubbish.
Yes, it does.
How? Hold on, how?
No. We'll read it through. I'm going to get the evidence for you.
Let's go for that one.
No, okay.
Yes.
It condones the subjugation of women. It condones the torture. Yes. And the threats and the torment of non-believers.
Yes. In the hellfire. Or in the
of non-believers.
Yes.
It is full of anti-scientific, magical nonsense.
Like what?
Like Noah living for 900 years.
Sorry?
no living for 900 years.
See, you talk. Let me listen.
A piece of wood turn into a snake.
You know the problem that we have here.
A piece of wood turn into a snake.
The problem that we have here is
cutting up birds into pieces and then having that bird fly back.
Have you finished? Have you finished?
No, I haven't finished.
No.
Let's go through. Let's go through.
Well, let's have a dialogue.
What's the matter?
Let's have a dialogue.
What's the matter? Are you scared of exposing all the magic in the Quran?
Let's not have a monologue.
You're scared of exposing the magic in the Quran.
Let's not have a monologue. Let's have a dialogue.
Okay.
It's better that way.
Let me go through all my points.
You've spoken a lot.
Okay.
You've spoken a lot.
Abbas, I want to reiterate and go through.
Shall we give you, how many minutes do you need?
No, hold on.
No, you tell me a time. How many minutes?
Well, I'm going to need a good 15 minutes to expose.
Oh my God. Well, I'm going to fall asleep here,
listen,
because we've had this discussion about
Abbas,
20 times.
I've made the accusation that Islam condones slavery. I've made that accusation.
And you're wrong on that.
I'm right. Well, completely right.
This is an accusation. You're right.
And it's in your book.
Does the word slave exist in the Quran?
I've made the accusation. Accusation.
Answer that question.
I've made the accusation.
Answer that one question. Does the word slave exist in the Quran?
We'll read the verses. You're going
to read the verse in English, translated from Arabic, and then you're going to say that is the Quran.
I didn't translate it. It was done by Arabs.
Okay, but
done by Arab speakers.
Maybe Arabs and non-Arabs.
Right? Arab speakers. Arabs.
I'm asking you the question though. I'm asking.
Listen.
See, look, Issa, look. For us to have a meaningful. Hold on.
I'm going to let you land in a minute.
Let me just finish.
What I've got to do.
1 second.
I'm just going to. No, I'm going to let you speak in a second. Let me say this. I'm going to outline. I'm going to show verses where the Quran condones slavery.
Where you feel.
And I'm going to show
on your interpretation.
And I'm going to show verses
on your
where the Quran subjugates women.
Right.
I'm going to show verses where the Quran condones torment, threats, and torture for non-believers.
Yes.
I'm going to show you all those verses.
I've seen those verses.
And I'm going to show you.
We've had this discussion before.
No, not properly. Not comprehensively.
Oh, we have.
And I'm going to show you where all the magical nonsense and foolery is exposed in the Quran. I'm going to show you those 4 aspects.
Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes.
10 minutes. No.
10 is reasonable.
Okay.
10 minutes. So it's 5:30. You've got till 5:40, and then I get 10 minutes. Okay.
No. I'd like to see them.
Call me when he finishes, yeah?
But
you should stay, it will be interesting.
Maybe it doesn't
for Isa at least.
Why in this book, maybe it doesn't directly refer to slavery.
Yes, it does. It does. I mean, I'm not even going to get into what Arabic slavery, which was for the sub-Saharan African, which was treacherous. They showed the Europeans how to do slavery.
Okay.
All right.
You're eating up your time.
Hold on. Let me just find the right thing.
It's sorry, Anis, give me a bottle of water from my bag. Just take that one. Sorry. No, keep it on. I think it's.
Yeah, but what is slave girls in Arabic?
I'll tell you what, we've got to find an official translator. We're going to learn English because that's what the language that God gave us. What? Your God.
You can speak. Come on, Issa, my God, you're taking too long. I might as well. Hold on. Can't you do a little dance while you're looking for it? Entertain us at least. Are you good at dancing?
I'm not bad.
You're not bad. I can tell.
Bad.
I can tell. See, I would, but I'd bounce around too much. I wouldn't look as cool as you.
I'm not bad.
See, the problem that we have here is this: to argue about what a verse means.
I'm sorry. We've already established. You have no credibility. All you have is your interpretation.
No.
Yes. Unless you can show me the people that you talk to are in direct contact with God. Are in direct contact with God and Muhammad.
You know,
unless you can demonstrate that, they have no credibility. I'm not interested.
Often the man who shouts the most normally has the weakest argument, and you really do shout a lot.
Listen,
but you need to calm down. Listen to me. Listen to what I'm saying.
Those types of ad hominem attacks are not going to help you.
I'll tell you why they will.
Let's start.
Yes.
What is this gentleman saying?
There is no blame.
What verse are we reading?
Surah 33, 55.
I'll go to the Arabic section and I'll ask.
This is slave. This is regarding slavery. Now, I've made accusations based on 4 categories: that the Quran condones slavery, misogyny, gratuitous torture, and is full of magic and
33-55. Yeah.
And supernatural anti-scientific nonsense. Okay. Okay. So, Surah 33, Ayah 55. There is no blame on the ladies if they appear before their fathers, their sons, their brothers' sons, their sisters' sons, their familiar women, and those whom their right hand possesses. The slaves. Oh, ladies, have fear of Allah for all.
I don't have that verse exactly as you've written it.
55.
Yeah. My verse doesn't actually.
I've got a good one here.
No. Add it in a minute. Add it in a minute.
350.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got that one.
You don't need to help him out. Don't worry. He's quite capable of digging his own hole.
I've got that.
No,
listen, I'm sorry.
Just keep digging. Just keep digging.
You've trapped.
Come on.
You've trapped yourself.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
You're trapped within the 4 corners of that text.
No problem.
You can't get away.
No problem. Let's deal with that.
The right hand possesses.
Yes.
Do you want to go into what right hand possesses means?
Well,
we're going to.
You obviously have a view of what it means.
Well, we know what it means.
No, we don't. You think you do. You think you do.
And we're going to expose that in a minute.
You think you do.
We're going to explain to us what it shall be 33:52.
Yes.
It shall be unlawful for you, O Muhammad, to marry more women after this, or to change your present wives with other women, though their beauty may be pleasing to you. However, those ladies whom your right hand possesses are exceptions. Allah takes cognizance of all these things.
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's read on.
Well, what do you think those verses mean?
No. Hold on. We'll come on to, because that's the crucial phrase.
Okay.
What the right hand possesses.
Yes.
And that's what you can't get away from. Okay. 33:50. There's more. There's more.
We like that.
O Prophet, lo, we have made lawful unto you thy wives upon whom thou hast paid thy dowries, and those whom thy right hand possesses. That's crucial, people.
You seem to say that very loudly every time.
Those with whom thy right hand possesses. Yes. That's very crucial. Of those whom Allah hath given thee as spoils of war, and the daughters of thine uncles on their father's side, and the daughter side of thine aunt on their father's side, and the daughters of thine uncles on their mother's side, emigrated with thee, and believing women, if they give herself unto the Prophet, and Prophet desires to ask her hand in marriage. A privilege for thee only. A privilege for thee only, and that's crucial as well in this verse. Isn't that interesting? Not for the rest of the believers. Yes. We are aware of that which enjoined upon them concerning their wives and those whom their right hand possesses, that thou mayest be free from blame, for Allah is forgiving and merciful. Okay, let's read on.
Got 4 minutes left, by the way.
Let's read on. Surah 30, Ayah 28. We give you an example for your own lives. Do not let your slaves be equal partners in your wealth, which we have given you. Do you fear them as you fear each other? Thus do we spell out our revelations for those who use their common sense.
That is 15.
That was 30. That was 30:28.
My Quran actually says right hand possesses, and in brackets it's slaves, and it's interesting how you use the word slaves and not right-hand possessors.
No.
So you switch as it pleases you.
It's basically I'm
not going to interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
You still have time. You still have time.
It's actually worse.
You still have time.
The right-hand possession is actually a worse situation for you. It's a worse situation for you, Abbas. Abbas, hold on. It's a worse situation for you.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. Surah 24, ayah 58. O ye who believe, let your slaves and those of you who have not come to puberty ask leave of 3 times before they come into your presence, before the prayer of dawn, and when ye lay aside your raiment for the heat of noon, and after the prayer of night. 3 times of privacy for you. It is no sin for them or for you at any time. At any other times, some of you go around attendant upon others if they come unto you, if they come into your presence without leave. Thus Allah maketh clear revelation for you. Allah is knowing and wise. Okay. 23. Hold on. 23. Surah 23, ayah 5. And who guard their modesty, save for their wives or their slaves that their right hand possesses, for then they are not blameworthy.
What translation are you reading from?
I'm reading from, I'll go to that in a minute. Yeah. It's actually a Pickthall translation. Pickthall that I got from Alim.org. Alim.org is excellent because it has the taxfirs and it tells you what each verse means. Okay. Allah sets for this. Ayah 16. Surah 16, ayah 75. I mean, I could go on. Ayah 16, ayah 75.
I hope you don't, but you know.
Ayah 75. Allah sets forth the parable of 2 men. One a slave under dominion of another. He has no power of any sort. And the other a man whom we have bestowed goodly favours from ourselves, and he spends thereof freely, privately and publicly. Are the 2 equal? Are they, Abbas?
Well, I don't know what you even are reading and what you mean by that.
By no means.
What you think
by
it means.
no means.
What you think it means.
By no means. Praise be to Allah, but most of them understand not. Now, I want to go on to...
Your time is up.
No, hold on.
No, your time is up.
Hold on, that was just slavery.
We said 10 minutes.
No, that was just slavery.
But it doesn't matter. You took up your time, 10 minutes is over. It's my 10 minutes.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Now I'm going to come on to the next section after you finish.
That's fine. There's a couple of things here. Number one, every time you're reading slaves, my Quran here translation doesn't even have the word slave, but it has right hand possessor.
Good, which is even better.
Hold on a second.
Fantastic.
Now hold on a second.
Yes.
Now the way we interpret the Quran.
Yes. No.
Hold on a second.
Abbas. I'm only going to accept
your. You can't interrupt me. I've got 10 minutes. You can't interrupt me. I've got 10 minutes. I didn't interrupt you. Right? The way that we interpret the Quran is not by going to right-wing, anti-Islamic websites that pick out a verse, use a favourable translation, like for example, Pickthall when it suits them, and Yusuf Ali when it suits them, and the Sahih Muslim when it suits them, to pick out the translators and their different choice of words to try to fit into the argument that they wish to apply. That's just mischievous. So the way that we do it is that, yes, of course, we would read these verses and we think, well, what does that mean? We go to scholars and we get into an interpretation of exactly what did the Prophet explain about that verse. What does it mean? Is it permissible? Is it permissible for us to get on a boat sail to Africa, enslave a free black man and sell him and consume his profit?
Well, the Arabs didn't need to.
Because the Prophet of Allah said that any man who enslaves a free man and consumes the Prophet, both Allah and his Prophet will be at war with him on the Day of Judgment. So the matter is clear for us. The matter is clear. There's no ambiguity. But you see, you wish to create ambiguity by spurious, out of context verses, translated by favorable sources, interpreted by anti-Islamic people to mean what you want them to mean. And throughout history, if what you say is correct, if what you say is right, then the Arabs were great sailors. Their scientific prowess was very advanced. They could have gone into Africa and they would have been the ones who would have killed the 100 million black Africans and not the Christians.
They did.
Not the Christians that you claim.
Arabs did.
100 million.
Around that figure.
Oh, please.
Around that figure.
Where did you get that
1,000 years before the Europeans.
You've just pulled that out of thin air.
1,000 years before the Europeans. Arabs were prolific enslavers.
So before they accepted Islam.
Why do you think Somalis and East Africans look the way they do? Why do you think they look the way they do?
Because the Arabs enslaved 100 million black Africans.
Over.
Where did you get that? Where did you get these figures?
900 to
900 million black Africans.
About 100 million black Africans over a 1,000-year period.
Can anyone collaborate that? No. Have you ever learned that in history?
Okay,
I've never ever learned that in history ever.
Slavery happened.
Listen, I'm not Arabs. Listen to me.
Arabs were prolific enslavers.
I'm not saying that there were some Arabs who may have done those things.
Not some.
However, we're talking about
Saudi Arabia only gave it up in 1973.
I had 10 minutes. You have to let me finish.
Okay, go on.
I have 10 minutes.
Go on.
Saudi Arabia does something or doesn't do anything. That's not Islam.
They still do.
Islam is what the Quran says and what Allah ordained and what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us. We don't look at Arabs or we don't look at Pakistanis or English or anybody else to guide us as to what Islam is. But you see, but that's not what we. Well, listen. The issue here is this. The issue is that brother in humanity. I use that loosely because I know you don't want to be described brother in any other way. But in humanity, even if you say
Abbas, even if you say brother from another mother.
Okay, fine, whatever. Right? So the reality is, that look, we have to be sensible. How do we interpret those verses? Do we take them to mean that Allah says it's good for you to go and trap free people, enslave them and consume the Prophet? Or do we listen to what the Prophet himself explained about these verses? That if you do these things, both Allah and I will be at war with you on the Day of Judgment. But within Islam, there were certain times, certain aspects where certain things were allowed. So for example, when you went into war and you had an oppressor that was oppressing you, in those days, if you killed all the men, the women would starve. You're talking about in the middle of the desert. They would starve, they would die. So then you're told that you take those women, you have to provide for them, you have to feed them, you have to clothe them. You're not permitted to rape them. You're not permitted to rape them or beat them. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. This is not. Listen, you're not permitted. This is the key. Look, as unpalatable.
I'm going to interrupt you.
As unpalatable as these discussions might be for some people, Islam deals with them very coherently and very directly and practically. So in the olden, people talk about this moral code and they get on their high horse. Look at all the recent wars and how soldiers behave in Vietnam or in Burma or in India, and then point fingers and say, oh, look at these people. It's inhumane. And inhumanity is not subjected only to people of faith or religion. or people who have used religion to twist what it was meant and done heinous acts. But we see it everywhere. If we're going to deal with the doctrine, we have to deal with what the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us in relation to what the Quran means, what the scholars interpret and teach us. And if that was true, what he says, you know, that Islam encourages the subjugating of women,
yes, it does.
Subduing women,
yes, it does.
Or oppressing women,
yes, it does.
Then 14 centuries ago, when women had no rights and were cattle, when up to 50 or 60 years ago, you know, the person who discovered DNA was a woman, but it was 2 male scientists that stole her research, because in those days, are we talking about 50 years ago?
Please.
Because in those days, 50 years ago,
can you keep on track?
The scientific faculty felt that women were somehow, you know, helpers. They cleaned the petri dishes. They couldn't come up with research. They had to be told what to do. But Islam said no. 14 centuries ago, she had the right to inherit. She had the right to choose who she wished to marry. She had the right to be in charge of her own money and her own investments and her own business. And you know, all of these rights given at a time when he's talking about subduing, when men in Europe, men in Africa, men were grabbing women by the hair, pulling them into the cave and raping them, and Islam was elevating them. You know? So it's a nonsense. It's a nonsense.
You've got a couple of minutes.
It's a nonsense.
You've got a couple of minutes.
I don't need a couple of minutes.
Okay,
I've finished.
Good. Okay. You made a spurious accusation that I got my material and my sources from, you know, right-wing, you know, interlopers.
I said the interpretation of those.
No.
Not the verses. The interpretation of them.
I'm sorry, Mikey. I haven't been to anybody. All I've done is read the Quran as it presents itself.
Have you consulted scholars as to what they mean?
I don't need to, unless unless
you don't need to.
No.
I, as a Muslim who was born as a Muslim, needs to.
Listen.
You, who's not a Muslim and has read a few verses, doesn't need to.
I've read the whole thing, not just a few verses. Let me come back to you again. Unless you can show me that God talks to you directly.
Yes.
Muhammad talks to you directly. The original scribes of the Quran talk to you directly.
Yes.
Unless you can demonstrate that you have been elected and selected as the main interpreter.
If I said that I heard voices, would you believe me?
As the main interpreter.
You would believe me.
As the main interpreter and translator of all the Islamic sects around the world.
So if I said I heard voices, you'd believe me. Is that what you're saying?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, you wouldn't?
Then I would take you somewhere else.
All right.
I would take you somewhere else.
So then what's your point then?
No.
What's your point then?
My point is that you have no credibility.
But then you said, just said, do they speak to me? I said no. But if I said yes, it would still be no good to you.
No.
So it's like heads I win, tails you lose.
No. It would
this
demonstrate.
Isn't going anywhere, is it?
No. It would demonstrate. It still demonstrate that you have no basis on which to try and muster up some sort of
not really,
higher authority.
Because you said to me,
you have no
do they speak
no
to
authority.
You? I said no. If I said yes, it'd still be wrong.
No, that would expose your mental health.
So I can't win the argument.
That would expose your level of your mental health.
So I can't win the argument either way.
No, you can't. Because people that hear voices about gods are mentally deranged.
According to you?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely according to me.
Now, deal with any other points you made.
Now, let's deal with the sources.
Like you're doing now.
Let's deal with the sources.
No, I'm making a
statement. Let's deal with the sources.
There's a difference.
My top 2 sources are purely.
That's 3 fingers, by the way.
Sorry, but I'm coming to a third one.
Oh, right.
I'm coming to a third one, which is Search Truth. I've got 3 sources.
Search Truth on the internet, or an internet site?
Yes, it's a Muslim internet site.
Which Muslim? What Muslim?
Well, I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you.
They say they're Muslim, and then you accept that they are Muslim, and it couldn't be somebody else possibly posing as a Muslim, or.
There you go, conspiracy.
Well, people do that, don't they? Of course they do.
No, they don't. Why would someone lie about being a Muslim?
People don't put false stuff on the internet?
Well, yeah.
Are you sure you got a PhD in philosophy? Because I mean.
No, seriously, he has.
Has he really?
He has.
And you don't believe people put false stuff on the internet? Oh, thank you.
But why would anyone put full
Otherwise,
stop about Islam.
otherwise I would lose.
Islam itself is
I would lose faith in the educational, you know,
Right,
education
Islam
in the
itself
UK.
has enough stuff. You don't need to put full stuff. It's rubbish as it is.
This is the number one site on the internet, right?
It's a terrible
for
book.
the Quran.
That's why you have more people, educated people in this country, converting to Islam than any other religion.
What's that believe? That's a lot of people believe stupid stuff.
Well, clearly, people who are intelligent and educated are making a
Let me ask you a
rational,
question. Can I ask you a
educated.
question?
Can I finish? Educated decision based upon 7 years of research, and they're accepting Islam.
Can I ask you a question?
Because they're all gullible and stupid.
Can I ask you a question?
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not.
Yes,
Okay, I'm going to say yes. Yes, I am saying that. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So, in 1930,
Yes.
in 1930 Germany, when
Yes.
the majority of Germans started to become Nazis,
Yes.
was it okay?
No.
Why not? It was a majority.
No.
It must be. By your argument, it must be a majority. It must be okay. Therefore, becoming Islam elite,
because the Quran says to be a fascist is wrong. That's why they were wrong.
But hold on.
You see, that's the difference.
No.
We
you're
get our
missing my
morality.
point. You're missing
You see,
your
that's
point.
you've made my
You're
point.
missing my point.
You've made
No,
my
I
point.
haven't. What you're
Because
saying is that
the
because
immoral action.
No, let me finish.
No, the immoral action. Well, if you say so.
No, I heard you out.
An immoral action committed by somebody.
Where does it say that?
They thought subjectively that they were right.
Where does it say? So
This is the number one source on the internet.
No, Abbas, your argument was that lots of people are converted. You're appealing to majority.
He was first.
You're appealing to majority.
It's an intelligent argument, but you have to understand.
No, I do understand.
But you clearly don't.
Appealing to majority.
You clearly don't. No.
What you're saying is that when the majority comes to something you don't agree with, it doesn't work.
My argument was not purely on numbers.
Yes, it was.
No,
What was it? Intelligent people.
The average.
Name me two of these people.
Two. My wife is one.
What PhD does she have?
She's going to do a PhD in molecular biology.
Where?
That's scary.
I don't have to disclose
That is terrifying.
but she is doing
Okay,
that.
fair
That is
enough.
She's doing that. Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Okay. So what do you say to that then?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Does she
Well,
accept?
she doesn't have a
So hold on.
Dr. Tajasan.
No, hold
From
on.
the Far East, a scientist who
Listen.
accepted Islam.
Listen.
So I've named two.
Okay.
So are you convinced now?
Mikey.
No. Okay. So we're wasting our time. So we're wasting our time. You said name two. I did, and it's not good enough. That's the arguments that I have to have here.
I want to ask you a quick
People,
question.
name me two. I named two. I say, is that okay for you? No.
Abbas.
So why are you wasting my time? Then you're gonna ask me for three. And if I name three, then you're gonna say, oh, name me four. If I name four, you're gonna. It's not going anywhere, is it? It's crazy. Yeah.
This is the number one site on the internet.
According to who?
Well, this is the number one hit that you get. This is the number one source
That doesn't matter.
that Muslims go to.
Who said so? Which Muslims? Have you heard of this website?
It's called the Quran.
The Quran.
It's called the Quran. Okay.
Yes.
That's the name of the website.
Yes.
The Quran.
Yes.
This is my source.
Yes.
As you can see, with each verse,
Yes.
each surah
Yes.
is accompanied by Arabic.
Yes.
When you get English, you get the Arabic translation.
Yes.
Every single one.
Yes. Do you understand the nuances of the Arabic language?
Please, I'm not going to get into
Do you
this
understand
with you,
that?
Because I'm going to present you in some Arabic and you won't be able to read it. Okay? So let's not go there. So,
By the way, I've seen that argument as well. That was a spurious argument.
No, it's not.
That's the guy who
It's
comes
not.
up with Syriac, right?
this
And then recently they found Arabic that's so far. Right? Oh my God! You know, all these arguments are just so futile. They really are. They're just childish arguments.
That digs you in deeper trouble as well.
Why is that?
Anyway, so every English translation is accompanied by Arabic,
Yes.
right? You're not an Arabic expert, and you can't speak Arabic.
Well, I can.
Right? No, you can't.
كيف حالك؟
You can't speak
كيف
Arabic.
حالك؟
You cannot speak Arabic.
كيف حالك؟
Do I have to demonstrate that you can't speak Arabic?
I'm speaking Arabic.
You can't speak Arabic.
I'm speaking it to you now. كيف حالك؟
You can remember a few words
If I
here
say
and
to
there,
you,
and you can you've learned.
أنت مجنون.
And you've learned.
أنت مجنون. I can speak Arabic. Is that Arabic?
أنا معك أخي. هو مجنون.
أنت مجنون.
هو مجنون.
I'm speaking Arabic.
I'm going to demonstrate in a minute that you can't speak Arabic, and I'm going to do that in a minute. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do it.
Are you now referring to reading Arabic?
And I'm not.
Are you now referring to reading or
I'm not going to let you get away. I'm not
Reading
gonna
or
let you get
speaking?
away.
Reading or speaking?
Let's deal with the sites. So my site, the Quran, this is the makeup. Every English wording is backed up by Arabic. Okay, let's go to the second site that I use.
Does it give you all the words that could fit that meaning?
It gives you various translations in English, yeah?
Some could be 20, 30, 40 different words.
And it gives you...
Does it give you all of those words?
Hold on. Sorry, Abbas, this is created by Muslims.
It doesn't matter.
For Muslims.
It doesn't matter.
Okay?
Why does that matter? Why does that matter?
Because
why does one site...
No. Let's go to another one.
Or two sites convince you
I'm going to go to
something.
They're not atheist sites. They weren't made up by atheists.
It doesn't matter.
They were Arabic speaking, translating sites, yeah?
Are they scholars?
Exactly. This is the whole question.
Listen.
This is the whole question.
Scholars won't help you.
Them to talk.
Scholars won't help. Your scholars are not going to help you.
Where do they get their funding? Where do they get their funding
They perpetuate your delusion.
Okay.
That's what they do.
Let's end this discussion at 6:15.
Hold on.
Let's end the discussion at 6:15.
Hold on.
Because
So that's
I've had 2-3 hour long discussions with you.
Hold on.
My throat has gone dry, and I still haven't managed to convince you on one thing.
Hold on.
Even when I've absolutely
We've got to go to the other side.
defeated all of your arguments.
Defeat my... Look, Abbas, you believe in an imaginary, non-existent entity, don't you?
We believe in an entity that we can't see. Yes.
No, it's not a question of... You don't have to see
but
it.
we can see the works.
You don't have to see it.
We can see the works of the entity. We can see the works of the entity.
No, you can't.
And that's the difference.
Listen.
You see, you wake up in the morning
Listen,
and you
Abbas,
think, oh, isn't this all lovely? It all happened by
Abbas.
itself.
Abbas.
And we say, no, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it lovely? God created it. That's the difference.
Abbas.
You think in an imaginary way that it all happened all by itself. We say how beautiful Allah proportions and creates and makes these things beautifully.
But you can't prove that.
And brother, you can't prove that it all came by itself. But you still accept that, don't you?
No,
You're making it look good by saying.
Then you don't know.
You're making it look good by
You don't
saying.
know. So there could be a God.
No, I said about how it came about. I don't know how it came about.
So there could be a God. That's one possibility, right?
Wait.
Is that a possibility?
It's how it came about.
It's
I'm
so
asking you,
remote.
is that a possibility?
It's so remote.
Is that a possibility?
It's so remote.
It is a possibility.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your honesty.
They see rational.
Thank you for your honesty.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I just want to ask you a quick question. Does your wife accept evolution?
I'm not a Muslim.
We can't all be perfect.
Does your wife accept evolution?
Yes.
Oh, does she? Oh, yes. Well,
But it depends what you mean by evolution.
That's something. But there's only one evolution.
No, not really. There are many different ways of explaining it.
Okay, we'll discuss that in a minute, and we'll discuss how you.
I'm not going to do that.
No, because you don't know, do you?
No, because regardless of what you say, it does not negate the existence of a creator.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. Because just because you can show how something happened doesn't mean that there was no God to make it happen. That's the difference.
We'll come on to that question.
Do you understand my point?
We'll come on to that
So
question.
whether this universe came from nothing, whether it came from something, however it came to be, it does not negate. Whether there are more than one universe, it does not negate the existence of a creator. That's the important thing here.
Your creator is a stand by the sign, do nothing.
Well, so you say.
Do nothing.
So you say. And yet Allah,
obfuscationalist.
and yet Allah says,
obfuscationalist.
Yes. Well, that's what you
Make
say.
it up as you go along.
Well, that's what you think. That's what you think. And you're entitled to your view, as I am to mine. And I base my view upon my
Indoctrination and brainwashing.
my knowledge. No, not at all.
Indoctrination and brainwashing.
If
And
anything,
conditioning.
if anything, at the age of about 15 or 16, being born in this country, many children go through the same phase of questioning. And I too questioned, and I thought to myself that I'm not going to follow a religion that can't allow you to do this and can't allow you to do that and doesn't allow you to do this unless I believe it to be true.
Like well, it's got the Quran, it's got the Hadiths, all 11 main sources, and it's got the takfirs, which sort of obviously go into what each surah says. Yeah, but that's my second source.
I never get angry.
He said, with all due respect, he said, with all due respect, to learn Islam,
Takes 10 minutes.
we do not go on websites.
Listen,
I'll tell you why.
I've got the book.
I'll tell you why.
I've got the book.
Let me explain to you why.
I've got the book.
Give me 2 minutes to talk.
No,
I've given you a lot of chance. No, you've got to give me 2 minutes. We do not go on websites to learn Islam because you have a problem.
You learn it from a book.
The reason why
And
you
I've
have
got
a problem.
that book.
Let me finish. The reason why we don't do that is because I would hope,
Don't be misleading.
reasonable person would realize that you have a combination of accurate information, you have a combination of inaccurate information, you even have websites that are set up by non-Muslims, by non-Christians that have false information to confuse people. Literally, they're funded by right-wing groups that often put out things that even I scratch my head when I start reading them.
Abbas, can you prove to me
So you have to.
that
Can I finish? Can I finish?
No,
I can't.
No.
Well, how can I prove to you?
Can you prove to me that Aleem.org,
Yes.
before you go on defaming them?
Yes, I'm not defaming them. I'm not defaming them. No.
Is sponsored.
No, look, you misunderstand what I'm saying.
And paid for by.
Don't put words in my mouth.
By interloping.
Don't put words in my mouth.
imposters,
That's a
right?
straw man argument.
Cool.
Because
Okay,
I didn't
okay.
say Aleem per se. Aleem per se.
Can you prove that the Quran.com is sponsored and paid for by fifth column
Is that what I said?
interlopers?
Is that what I said?
No.
No.
Well,
so if I didn't
that's what
say
you're-
that,
but no.
Why are you saying that I said
because
that?
that's what you're implying.
No.
That's what you're
No.
implying. You're trying to
No.
undermine my resources.
No.
I'm not going to let you do it.
What I'm saying to you
I'm
is
not going to
this.
let you do it.
What I'm saying to you is
I've
this.
showed you two.
Can I finish?
Two credible.
Can I answer that question?
Muslim sites.
Can I answer
and you
that?
don't want to take them as
Can I
credibility.
refer to that statement that you just made? I have never even heard of these websites.
What, the Quran?
No, I haven't heard of Aleem, certainly.
Aleem.org.
Right, I haven't heard of them. Right now, you want me to accept what they're saying when I don't even know who they are.
Okay, all right.
Whether they have any credibility within the Islamic world, whether the scholarly consensus is that they're correct, and you want to refer to them as concrete and absolute evidence and proof to your argument.
All they do.
No, but what
all they do is publish the Quran.
He said, what I'm trying to say to you is this.
And the Hadith.
He said, what I'm trying
That's
to
all
say,
they do.
He said, what I'm trying to say to you is this. With any academic research or study on any subject, when you go to a certain depth of that subject, you never become a true scholar of that subject by just going and picking books and opening the internet pages.
Yeah.
You have to go to recognized scholars of that subject, sit through lectures, have discussions, have meetings, and then you get a clearer picture.
Sure.
Otherwise, you could become a brain surgeon sitting at home, pick out the relevant books, go on the internet. You know what? I could do that. I'm pretty nifty with carpentry. I can take the skull off of that man. I could chop that bit of flesh off. I think I could do that. But of course,
Abbas.
you'd be foolish
Abbas.
to think like that.
Abbas.
And you see, Isa is a typical example of
Abbas.
that. He wants to do brain surgery
Abbas.
after going to 2 or 3 websites
Abbas.
and picking out 2 or 3
I'm
books
sorry.
and getting some quotations.
I'm sorry.
You can't do it like that, Isa.
I've got the copy of the Quran. I've read the Quran back to
We're
front.
running around in circles now.
I've got the copy of the Quran.
We're running
I've read
around in circles.
I've read it back to front. Abbas, can you tell me whether you believe that a piece of wood can turn into a snake, please?
Scientifically,
What other way could it be?
No.
Scientifically, on a human level, through human characteristics or human making, absolutely not. Do I believe that God can do that? Yes, of course.
What evidence do you have for that?
God that says that I created
Abbas,
this. Hold
what
on a
evidence
second.
do you have for that,
Hold on a
please?
second. Can I just finish?
You're rambling.
Hold on a second.
You're rambling.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me finish.
You're rambling.
Let me
You're
finish.
rambling.
Let me finish.
Tell me whether you...
Let me finish, please.
What's the evidence?
Let me finish.
What's the evidence?
Look, I believe you talk about snake turning from a stick into a snake. Yes.
Yes.
I believe that Allah says that we created this universe from nothing.
Yeah.
Kun fayakun. We simply said be, and it came into being.
How did you...
Now you're talking about a stick and a snake.
No. Abbas,
I'm talking about the whole of this universe.
Abbas, how did your God say be? How did he make that sound?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
It doesn't matter to me.
What do you mean you don't know? You
Why
know
does
he
that
made
matter?
the sound.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know.
Has he got a cardiovascular system?
I don't have to know
Has he got
that.
a mouth?
I don't know that.
Has he got a mouth?
Allah says in the Quran.
Has he got a mouth, Abbas?
Hold on, let me answer the question. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ.
Yes.
And there is nothing comparable to Allah. So this
Abbas.
So this vocal cord or mouth,
Abbas,
or
Abbas,
hands.
Abbas,
These are
Abbas,
human characteristics.
Abbas.
We don't. Hold on.
Abbas.
Let me finish the answer. It's an elaborate one.
I'm not going to let you ramble on for much longer.
I'm a thoughtful person, so I take a bit of time.
You're waffling because you don't have. You're making it up as you go along.
Hold on a second. So when we compare human characteristics,
you're waffling.
Or abilities to the creator, we don't say God has a mouth.
How did he say be, Abbas?
No idea.
Did he use a bump? Was it a
No
European
idea.
be?
No idea. No idea. I don't need to know that. I just need to know that he did do it.
How do you know he did it, Abbas?
Because he says so.
No. So because
In
he
the
says
Quran.
so. Okay,
In the
Abbas,
Quran.
do you? So because it says so in the Quran. So do you believe that you can cut a bird into, loads of pieces?
Yes.
And then sprinkle it everywhere.
Yes.
And then have that bird fly back to you in one piece.
If God wills, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can God and God can do anything he likes, can't he?
Whatever he wants, yes.
He can do anything he likes.
Yes.
So God can turn himself into a blue elephant, can't he? Abbas?
Tell him to say what?
He can turn himself into a blue elephant, can't he?
A what?
A blue elephant.
A blue elephant. It is beyond the majesty of Allah to do these sort of things. Listen. 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 Hold on a second. Just because I can run naked in this park doesn't mean I will do so.
There's a story in the Quran
You understand?
about
You understand?
about the birds with pebbles in their beaks and claws. Drop it on the Ethiopian army.
Abbas.
Listen.
Why does God need a chair? Why does God need a chair and need to be carried around by angels?
Just because I can run around in this park naked is something I can do.
Yes.
But it is beneath my sense of intelligence, rationale, etiquette, manners. So I wouldn't do it. So you say, can God do this?
The Hindus say that he did.
You're thinking.
The Hindus say that he did.
Yeah, well, then go and talk to the Hindus.
No.
Why are you wasting my time?
No.
Why are you wasting my time? Go to a temple and speak to the Hindus.
Abbas.
You want me to defend Hinduism now?
Abbas. Why does Abbas?
Is it really?
Abbas.
Okay, well, that's your opinion.
Why does God need?
Don't go around killing people.
They don't go around killing people.
Hold on.
In my hometown, where my parents lived, Gujarat,
Abbas.
They have done terrible things.
and they were Hindus.
Abbas, you're running away.
Evangelical Hindus.
Abbas.
So they do kill people.
Abbas,
don't
you're
they?
running away.
So you're wrong.
You're running away. Okay.
So you're wrong. Oh, now it's a drop in the ocean.
Marky, please.
First they don't.
Marky, please.
When I provide the proof to you, now it's a drop in the
Abbas,
ocean.
Abbas.
You like moving the goalpost, don't you?
Abbas,
A minute ago, you
Abbas.
didn't know
4 minutes. 4 minutes.
No, hold on.
You got 4 minutes to waste my time.
Why does
You're
God?
learning something.
Abbas,
I'm learning that he's saying nothing gets through.
Abbas,
Okay.
why does God need a throne, Abbas? Why does he need a throne to be carried around with angels?
Well, I don't know if it's carried around. Listen.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Why does he need a throne, Abbas?
First of all,
why does he need to sit down on a chair?
Can I answer the
Abbas?
question?
Why does God need to sit down
Can
on
I
a
answer
chair?
the question? Can I answer the question?
Yeah, go on.
We believe that one of the attributes of Allah is that He needs nothing.
How do you know that?
No, but he says God sat down in a throne and was carried around by angels.
Where did it say that?
Oh my God! Why do you force me to do this, Abbas?
Because you're
all
talking
the time?
nonsense. God needs to sit down and be carried on by
That's
angels.
right, Abbas. Now let's go to the surah and get it sorted.
Please, let's do that. We've got 3 minutes left
hold on,
of this
Abbas.
discussion.
We don't.
I'll answer that one.
You are very generous.
You don't answer any point.
Remain only 1 minute.
Listen,
That's so funny.
the problem is this.
No.
The problem is this. You don't like the answers.
Because they're rubbish.
That's why. Because they don't feed your predisposition
How do you know
of what you come here to believe.
How do you know?
Because you don't have an open mind.
Yes, I do.
When you make a comment,
I'm not a Muslim.
you make a comment, you make an assertion,
Like what?
and you sit on it
Do you have
like
an
a
open
stubborn
mind?
donkey,
Do you
like a
have an
mule,
open- do you have an
and
open
you don't
mind?
budge.
Do you have
And
an
when I
open-
pull the rope, you just sit ever so
you have an
harder.
open mind?
And that's the problem.
Do you have an open
We
mind?
have to have an open mind.
Do you have an open
We
mind?
have to have an open
Do you
discussion.
have an open
we
mind?
have to dialogue.
Do you have an open
Reasonably.
mind? Is this dialogue?
Yes, of course it is.
Do you have an open mind?
Yes, I do.
Is it possible that Hinduism is true?
No.
That's a closed mind.
Why?
Is it possible
Because
that Mormonism
it is
is true?
possible.
Is it possible that Mormonism is true?
No.
Okay.
Okay, is it possible
Is that called
Islam,
having an open mind?
Is it
Yes.
possible that Islam is not true.
Yes.
Is it possible?
That is called having an open mind. Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes.
No, you don't know what open mind is.
Do you think killing people is valid? Is acceptable? Innocent people.
Yeah, it depends on what context.
Innocent people.
It depends on what context.
Somebody who's perfectly innocent.
Is
it valid to kill them?
What about euthanasia?
No, I'm saying.
What about euthanasia?
Killing an innocent person who doesn't wish to die, is it acceptable?
Well, your God does it all the time.
Why are you not having an open mind on that then?
Because I don't think they would want to die. Therefore, we're
So you made a conclusion in your mind that certain things are wrong, based upon your subjective reasoning or social pressures, right?
Absolutely.
So then you don't have an open mind on everything, do you?
Well, I have an open mind on the majority of things.
Right. So do I. But not on everything.
No, you don't.
Okay.
Not on worshipping idols.
You think homosexuality?
Not on worshipping a statue that I build with my own hands and then I bow in front of it. That's not open-mindedness. That's silly. That's silly.
You believe homosexuality is wrong?
Listen.
1 minute left.
You believe homosexuality?
I'll deal with your homosexuality in a minute. Not now.
I'm not homosexual.
Your suggestion of it. Go on.
Okay.
So you think a matter of taste is wrong?
Okay. Now, you haven't been able to tell us how your invisible imaginary friend said B.
Who's my imaginary friend?
Well, Allah. Allah is your invisible imaginary friend.
Imaginary friend. Right?
Different people from different parts of the world have different imaginary friends. Yours is Allah. Now,
it's all right. We're having fun. We're having fun. It's okay.
So why don't you shut up and let him speak?
So, Abbas, you haven't been able to tell us how your God said B and let it be. You haven't been able to do that. Does your God have a card? Does he have a mouth? Does he have a tongue? What language did he say in?
We're told that you can't compare anything to Allah in creation.
And if it says it in the Quran, it must be true.
Allah is unique.
Yes. So, I've asked you why your God needs a chair, why he needs a throne. Yes. And you haven't been able to answer that. Why? Why does your God need a chair?
Need a chair, yeah?
Yeah, he needs a chair.
Okay, tell me why.
No, but why? Why does he need
I don't know. He needs nothing. Well, you say he needs a chair, so tell me why he needs a chair.
Well, he gets carried around by angels.
Well, you said he needs a chair. Explain to me where he needs a chair.
He needs us to worship
God gets carried around by angels?
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't. His chair gets carried around by angels. Sorry, you got that wrong.
Anyway, regardless.
Why does God need a chair to sit in a chair to be carried around by angels?
Where does it say that he needs a chair?
He needs us to worship him.
Don't try and prevaricate.
You said he needs a chair.
No.
I want to know where
your God sits in a chair and gets carried around by angels. Yes? So let's find that surah. Yeah? Because it's a fantastic surah. Why does the creator of the universe need a chair?
In the true sense of the word.
It's incredible.
Do you know what I mean?
That's why Islam is spreading at the rate it's spreading.
Abbas, do you believe that Muhammad spoke to a cow?
So what? Does that make fascism a good thing?
These discussions are futile.
No.
I'll tell you why they're futile.
Abbas,
I'll tell you why they're futile.
Abbas, do you believe that Muhammad spoke to a cow?
I'll tell you why they're futile.
Of course he spoke to a cow.
I'll tell you why they're futile.
Well, it must be true. It says so in the hadith.
I'll tell you why they're futile.
It must be true.
I'll tell you why they're futile, and I'm going to end on this.
No, hold on.
No, I will, because I'll tell you why they're futile. I'll tell you why they're futile.
Hold on.
I will tell you why they're futile. No, I'll tell you why they're futile. You see, you talk about a stick turning to a snake.
God needing the throne.
Hold on.
And God needing the throne.
Well, there's hundreds of things we could discuss.
No. Abbas, we've got to go through them all.
And
I want to know whether you believe all of them.
You talk about a stick turning to a snake.
Yes.
And when we look at it on the basis of science, if I had a stick here and I try to turn it into a snake, unless it was some illusion, obviously I would be incapable of doing that.
No.
Right? Now, you look at...
Do you believe...
Hold on a second.
Not you.
Hold on a second.
Do you believe that a piece of wood can turn into a snake?
You now are comparing who we would regard a messenger sent down by God,
Moses,
who is a terrorist,
and a mass murderer.
One second. Let's not.
Who's a butcher and a terrorist and a mass murderer.
Let's not get carried away. let's be sensible.
Let's not talk about Abraham.
Let's be sensible.
Let's not talk about Abraham.
Who is hold on a second.
talking facts.
Hold on a second.
Horrible human
Let's not
being.
interrupt. So he's instructed to throw down his staff, and God is, we're told, turns the staff into a snake.
Into a snake.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
and obviously,
now,
you're a man living in the 21st century who believes that.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you see, the absurdity of the argument is that you wish to mirror that argument on materialistic norms and understanding of science as we understand it today.
No.
That's why it's an absurd argument.
Do you believe?
Because you see, when we're talking about,
Let's go to the Australian Aboriginal God.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
And see what he believes.
When we are referring to these things, we're talking about a supernatural event,
exactly,
created, instigated by God Almighty.
Okay.
Right. Now, hold on a second. Now, the absurdity is because you don't believe in that creator, clearly it's going to always seem absurd to you.
I don't believe in any invisible or imaginary friends, including the Arab one.
Whatever. Now, so
all over the world.
So for us to have that argument, and then to raise another miracle, and then another miracle, and then did he chop a bird up, and did the bird become a bird again? You know, these are absurd arguments.
Did it happen, Abbas?
Because they are based
Did it
upon,
happen, Abbas?
I believe that God is capable of doing anything. And the biggest... And the biggest thing of all...
So let's see what the Aboriginals say about their God.
And
see what you believe the Aboriginals.
And the biggest thing of all is that this universe came from nothing.
Abbas.
Simply say be, and it was.
How did he say be, Abbas?
A snake turning into a stick.
Abbas.
Or somebody chopping up a little birdie and it turning into a birdie. How ludicrous discussion.
No. Abbas, how did God say be?
I will end my discussion on that.
Abbas, how did God say be?
As usual.
No, Abbas.
I've already, listen.
How did he say be? How did he make the sound?
We're running around in circles again.
What language did he use?
Don't you get tired?
You're making it up as you go
I
along.
am really
You
tired.
haven't got a backstory for your imaginary friend.
I'm really getting tired now.
You're making it up as you go along,
Is there
Abbas.
anyone else who's sensible that would like to have a discussion with me?
You haven't got a song's chance.
It was lovely meeting you. I'm sorry I didn't have any chocolates for you this time.
I'm sorry that I had to expose you again, Abbas. Even though... And I did it because you didn't give me any chocolates. Okay. If you had given me some chocolates, I wouldn't have exposed you.
Next week I'll remember that then. Snickers. I think you like Snickers, don't you? Anyway, pleasure. Nice meeting you.
Best.